Hello and welcome back to Watching Brief for the month of February 2018. As ever, I'm joined by the amazing Andy Brockman.
You make me sound like a Victorian music hall magician. Hello, Mark. It's been an interesting month, hasn't it?
To me, you are a magician, Andy, and yes, it has been an interesting month. It's been a very busy month in terms of archaeological news, and even though I've been particularly busy for personal reasons this month, despite that, certain news stories have floated up to the top of my consciousness, and I think they're particularly interesting because they really demonstrate in a very visceral way the relevance of archaeology to the world today. Certainly, the way in which people have been interacting with some of this month's news stories have been particularly active. So I'm really looking forward to talking about some of the things on the agenda this month. But before we dive into February, can we just quickly have an update on the Java Sea situation?
Yeah, the story so far. A few weeks ago, an Indonesian news site published a very good, in-depth report on the looting of military wrecks in the Java Sea
Hmm.
of the Indonesian archipelago.
And we covered
Uh,
this. We covered this last month, didn't we?
Indeed, and
Yep.
we'll link to it below,
Hmm.
and we'll link to the original Indonesian story, which is well worth reading for anybody who wants to follow this kind of issue.
Hmm.
What they effectively alleged was that a number of eight, I think in total, Chinese and Indonesian salvage companies had illegally salvaged warships, in particular,
Hmm.
that were lost during World War II, and the vessels concerned were Dutch, American, British, Japanese. So this is an international issue.
Hmm. Hmm.
What has happened subsequently is that the issue has been debated in the Dutch Parliament, although it hasn't yet been debated in the UK Parliament. However, Labour MP Luke Pollard, who is the representative of the MP rather for Plymouth Devonport, where one of the ships concerned, HMS Exeter, was based, and where there's still a lot of concern about what happened to the nearly 100 members of her crew who were lost in the sinking,
Hmm.
is taking up the issue and is hoping to bring it up the political agenda in the UK. At the same time, the Dutch have sent a group to Indonesia to investigate the reports on the ground. Again, something that the British MOD haven't done.
And my understanding is that this is in particular in relation to the treatment of human remains. This is in particular
That
what's come to light.
that's right. The original allegations were made in the Tito website investigation.
Hmm.
Yesterday, The Guardian published an in-depth report by its reporter Kate Lamb, who had visited Brondong Port, which is where the activity was allegedly centred,
Hmm.
and has spoken to a number of local people, including a welder who'd worked in one of the scrapyards, and who said, I quote, "I could smell something different, very unusual. I picked it up, and wow, I could see it was definitely a bone, so I gave it to the boss."
Right.
In other words, when they were breaking up the fragments of these ships, we've now got, again, more first-hand accounts that human remains were found
Hmm.
and have allegedly been disposed of secretly, either in landfill or in the local cemetery, according to different reports.
Right. Which is really, in that sense, this is the heart of the story. It flies in the face of so many people's instincts when it comes to these wrecks. There are arguments supposedly to be had over whether or not military wrecks are the same as, for example, a cemetery from the First World War, and actually in the past, governments themselves, indeed our own government, has given people permission to salvage wrecks.
And made money from it. They sold the licenses.
Yeah, which isn't great. But this issue, in this instance, this issue really seems to be coming more explicitly to the public's attention, and that this
Yes.
particular case study appears to be a bit of a lightning rod for the concerns which, frankly, actually over on Mortimer, you've been pointing people to for years now.
Well, I've been working on this story, not just the Java Sea, but the treatment of what are called maritime military graves in general for about 6, 7 years now.
Yeah.
But I think this story particularly because it does seem so brutal. They're
Mm.
not just taking. It's not just leisure divers, recreational divers taking souvenirs.
Mm.
This is full-on commercial destruction for profit,
Mm.
and that's the game. I think that's a bit of a game changer.
Yeah.
What will be interesting though would be to see how the governments concerned react. At the moment, the allegation is certainly that the Dutch are taking it more seriously than the
Okay.
British.
Okay. Well, this hopefully will come to the attention of the British Parliament in the not too distant future, and of course we'll return to this story in the future.
I think we will be returning to it.
Okay. Okay.